Most people think the scariest part of a horror movie is what happens on the screen. But what if the real terror was behind the camera? For decades, Hollywood has whispered about cursed films, productions plagued by accidents, fires, strange deaths, and tragedies that defy explanation. Coincidence? Or something darker bleeding into reality? Welcome to the Lost Tapes 404, where horror legends meet true stories. Tonight, we uncover three of the most infamous cases: the Exorcist, the Poltergeist, the Omen. So grab your popcorn and remember, some curses don't end when the credits roll. It's one of the most terrifying films ever made. But for the people who worked on The Exorcist, the horror wasn't limited to the screen. Some say the production itself was cursed. The first sign came early. In 1972, before filming was even finished, a fire broke out on set. The blaze tore through the production stages and reduced them to ash. Almost everything was destroyed, except for one eerie detail. The room built to represent Reagan's bedroom remained untouched, standing almost defiantly amid the wreckage. The cast and crew whispered that something didn't want them to finish this film. Accidents followed. Crew members suffered mysterious injuries. Equipment broke down without explanation. Production delays stretched filming months past schedule, and a sense of dread hung over the set. Some even refused to come back to work unless the set was blessed by a priest. Director William Friedkin reluctantly agreed, admitting years later that the atmosphere felt wrong.
A pigeon flew into a light box, causing a short circuit and thus the fire. That's the only thing that happened during the entire film that I thought was some kind of bad karma.
Then came the deaths. Actor Jack McGowan, who played Burke Dennings, died suddenly of pneumonia shortly after completing his scenes. Vasiliki Malarios, who played Father Kara's mother, also passed away before the film's premiere. Both of their characters, disturbingly, die in the movie. The lead actresses weren't spared either. Linda Blair, only 14 at the time, was violently thrown around during a malfunctioning stunt. Her spine was injured, leaving her in agony. Ellen Burstyn, who played her mother, suffered a permanent back injury during a harness stunt gone wrong. The screams captured in the film weren't just acting. They were genuine cries of pain. And it didn't end there. During filming, multiple crew members lost close relatives. Others reported hearing unexplained noises in the sound stages. The rumors spread that something supernatural had attached itself to the project. Even audiences weren't safe. At early screenings, people fainted, screamed uncontrollably, or fled the theater. A few were reported to have suffered heart attacks. Ambulances were stationed outside cinemas during its premiere run. By the time filming wrapped, the cast and crew were left shaken, exhausted, and forever changed. For some, the horror was just a coincidence of bad luck. But for others, The Exorcist had crossed a line and opened a door that should have remained closed. But The Exorcist wasn't the only production touched by tragedy. Just a few years later, another film about restless spirits would earn a reputation for being just as cursed, and its story begins with something disturbingly real. Those two words have become iconic after Poltergeist, the Steven Spielberg-produced film about a suburban family terrorized by angry spirits. But for the cast and crew, the real terror unfolded off the camera. One of the most unsettling facts came to light years later. The skeletons used in the film's infamous swimming pool scene weren't props at all. They were real human remains. At the time, it was cheaper to rent actual skeletons from medical suppliers than to manufacture realistic fakes. Actress JoBeth Williams later admitted she had no idea until after filming that she'd been thrashing around in muddy water with real corpses. Many fans believe this decision was the start of what became known as the Poltergeist curse. And soon after, tragedy struck. Dominique Dune, the 22-year-old actress who played the oldest daughter Dana, was brutally murdered by her ex-boyfriend just months after the film's release. Her shocking death sent waves through Hollywood and gave rise to whispers that the production itself was cursed. Then came the heartbreaking loss of Heather O'Rourke, the child actress who played Carol Ann, the little girl who delivered the film's most chilling line. In 1988, while working on Poltergeist 3, she suddenly became ill and died of septic shock at just 12 years old. Fans were devastated, and the connection between her death and the film only deepened the legend of the curse. The tragedies didn't stop there. Julian Beck, who played the sinister Reverend Kane in Poltergeist 2, died of stomach cancer shortly after finishing his role. Will Sampson, who also appeared in the sequel, passed away from surgical complications the following year. Beyond these deaths, cast and crew reported strange happenings during production: equipment malfunctions, flickering lights, and sudden, unexplained accidents. JoBeth Williams claimed that every time she returned home from filming, pictures on her wall would mysteriously tilt or fall. Others described a lingering sense of dread, as though something had followed them home from the set. To this day, Poltergeist remains one of the most talked about cursed films in Hollywood history. For some, it was simply a string of misfortunes, but for others, the use of real skeletons sealed the fate of everyone involved. The movie promised, "They're here," and many believe they never left. But what if The Exorcist and Poltergeist were bad luck? The next film went beyond coincidence. With a trail of accidents and deaths so unnerving, some say it was more than just a curse. It was an omen. From its very conception, The Omen carried an air of dread. The film told the chilling story of Damien, a child who appeared innocent but was revealed to be the Antichrist. Audiences were terrified by the story on screen. But what happened behind the scenes was even more unsettling. The first warning came before filming even began. Lead actor Gregory Peck booked a flight to London to start production, but at the last moment he canceled his ticket. The plane he was scheduled to board crashed shortly after takeoff, killing everyone on board. Crew members whispered that the film had already claimed lives before the cameras even rolled. Then the skies seemed to turn against the production. Producer Harvey Bernard was nearly struck by lightning while in Rome. Days later, Gregory Peck's plane was hit by lightning on his way across the Atlantic. Screenwriter David Seltzer also experienced the same terrifying phenomenon. 3 men, all tied to the Omen, all struck by lightning within weeks of each other. Animals, too, seemed to rebel against the filmmakers. During the zoo scene, baboons became uncontrollably aggressive, pounding on the car windows with such force that the cast feared they'd break through. A trainer tasked with handling big cats was killed by a lion the day after filming a scene. The pattern of tragedy grew darker. Special effects designer John Richardson, who created the film's infamous decapitation scene, was in a horrific car accident the year after the film's release. His passenger, Liz Moore, was killed instantly, decapitated in a crash eerily similar to the scene Richardson himself had designed. Richardson later claimed that just before the accident, he saw a sign that read, "Omen, 66.6 kilometers. By the time the film was released, the stories of accidents, deaths, and eerie coincidences had spread like wildfire. Even those who didn't believe in curses admitted the string of tragedies was chilling. To this day, The Omen is remembered not only as one of the most terrifying films of the 1970s, but also as one of the most haunted productions in Hollywood history. Coincidence? Or something more sinister? For many, it wasn't just a movie about the Antichrist. It was a film that seemed to carry a curse all its own. 3 films, 3 curses, and too many tragedies to ignore. Some call it coincidence. Others believe something darker slips through when the wrong story's told. A shadow that lingers, watching, waiting, ready to claim its next victim. And maybe it doesn't end when the cameras stop rolling. Maybe the real horror begins when the lights go out and you're alone. We drop new terrifying stories every Friday at 5 p.m., so hit subscribe and join us before the next curse finds you. Stay curious, stay safe, and remember, the curse doesn't care whether you believe in it or not.